So welcome back to another video on channel. In today's episode, of course, we have the Google Pixel 4a. On the surface, it's a really good phone. Once we dive deeper in, we may see some alternatives to this phone and other pros and cons of this phone. Just stick around, and yeah, so let's get right into the video. So I'm going to start off with some of the things that I look for in a smartphone. So I'm going to start off with what I like to call my pillars of a smartphone. So that is design, display, performance, everything that you think about when you're going to buy a phone. Like what specs does it have, how does that translate to user experience, and other things like that. So yeah, let's get right into the video. So yeah, I'm going to start off with design. So design is basically what you see when you first pick up this phone. Here it is. So yeah, this is the Pixel 4a. And while I do think it has a decent design, I'm not trying to put off the design team writing it at Google, but I don't think you probably could have put a bit more effort in, to be honest. It kind of is a bit boring to me. A lot of people probably won't agree with that, so I can totally see why people like it. You know, it's a bit minimalistic, you know, nice, simple, but I don't think it's for me just because, you know, I think it's a bit too simple for me, and I prefer something a bit more flashy, you know, a bit more like glass back, like the OnePlus Nord or something like that. Speaking of the glass back, we don't have that here, we have plastic. Isn't that bad, to be honest, especially this plastic since it's matte, but it does definitely feel a bit cheap and a bit toyish, just because the weight is off, because, you know, the weight is so light now it's plastic that actually I forget it's in my pocket sometimes, but it can lead to it feeling like a toy, so, you know, that's not so good. But what is good is the transition over from Dragon Trail glass to Gorilla Glass. So Gorilla Glass is basically the best glass on smartphones, really. To be honest, this is only Gorilla Glass 3, so it's not that impressive. I mean, obviously, King Kong, that's him. Everyone knows that gorillas are just better than dragons, so, you know, having the better glass as well with gorilla and dragons, you know, kind of entails that. But yeah, we got Gorilla Glass, and Gorilla Glass is, honestly, it's pretty protective. I do get quite a lot of micro scratches on this thing because it is only Gorilla Glass 3. Most phones these days, even on the lower end, have Gorilla Glass 5. That is basically like the best kind of middle ground for Gorilla Glass. So this has Gorilla Glass 3, which is about a couple years old, to be honest now. So while it's not the best protection, it's still an upgrade over last year's Pixel 3a, so we'll take anything we can get. And we have to remember this is a £350 phone we deal with, so we can't be too harsh on it. And then we also, on the bottom, we get a USB-C port and a speaker. By the way, this is stereo speakers, so hooray, because barely any phones at this price range have stereo, and it's just a shame because these speakers are actually pretty damn good, especially for this price. You know, £350, you can find it on deal for like $300 now. Getting stereo speakers, it's pretty damn good. I'm not sure about the design. You'd also get a mid power button, which is a nice touch, but you know, I just think it's a bit too bland for my personal use. I don't think I would, like, if I could have other designs, I probably would, just because I don't think this is that engaging and that good looking, in my opinion. But feel free to disagree. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But what I definitely do like is the camera. So, the camera, this is basically the main feature. When you go to buy a Pixel, that's basically what you're buying it for. It's the camera experience. So if you didn't know already, Google has this absolutely amazing camera software. It's just out of this world. And if I'm going to be honest, you will not find anything close to this, like, at all. The Pixel camera is just amazing. And, you know, I would definitely suggest you going out and picking up, like, maybe like a 2-week trial off your carrier. See if you can try and muster some deal to, you know, get the Pixel 4a to try out for like 2 weeks, just so we can like have a feel of what the Pixel experience is like, because once you have the camera, it's hard to go back. But yeah, we'll get more into the details of the camera, and so we'll start off with, basically, the selfies are pretty decent. They're nothing special, to be honest. They get a magenta hue for some reason around the corners. so I'm not really that impressed with the selfies, but the rest of the camera I actually absolutely love. The video has really nice microphones. I think it's got some sort of optimization that makes it zoom in on a voice that it's heard so that it only recognizes that voice and then tries to blur out any background noise. And it also has really good stabilization on the video. It is one of the best video smartphones, which was a place that Google was lacking in a lot of the other Pixel phones. People always said the pictures were absolutely out of this world, but the video was subpar. So yeah, good to see Google have put some effort into the video, and I think we're all happy for that because, you know, I make videos, I kind of value video more than photos. But speaking of photos, these are just amazing. So on the Pixel 4a, we get a 12 megapixel sensor on the back. It's like about 4-year-old sensor, to be honest, from the Pixel 2, but it still rocks today. It is. The pictures on this thing are just great. You will get really nice dynamic range, so from the darkest areas to the brightest areas. Excellent saturation levels, not too oversaturated that it just looks unnatural. You get really natural photos, and they just look really good. And there's not really much for me to say. I'll just show up some pictures right now. Just the cameras on this thing are absolutely excellent, and that's why we move to another category, which is absolutely excellent, and that is, of course, the software. So, as you may have already known, Google makes their own software. This is Android 11. We're running on Android 11. Google makes Android, so obviously they're going to have a really good version of it. And Android 11 is just really clean on this phone. I am very much a fan of stock Android, although I do have a better preference for me. And my second favourite operating system on Android is definitely stock Android. You're barely going to have any problems with Google stock Android since they make it, and they can optimise for any bugs, any glitches really easily. So yeah, really good software from Google. I personally do prefer Oxygen OS just because I think it's smoother and more fluid. Leave your favourite software down below. I do really enjoy the software experience here on the Pixel 4a. And while it's not that feature packed like One UI, it's not cluttered like One UI either. Very clean, very minimal, and that's what I really like about the Pixel as well, since you use software to navigate around everywhere. And one thing you also use to navigate around everywhere, which isn't so good, is the display. So the display is, you know, it's decent. I'm not knocking it, to be honest. It's not like people are making this display to be amazing, but, and you know, you get a 1080p 60Hz panel. I honestly don't expect much more from this kind of price range, but you know, something like the Realme X2 Pro, £100 less. You can find it on deals now. Has a 90Hz display. It's kind of looking against the Pixel here. It's just a regular display. Probably the display that you're rocking right now has 1080p 60Hz. Unless you're a really techie guy like me, or some other people who just have the 90Hz or 120Hz displays. But to be honest, I didn't really expect anything else from Google here. They only put the 90Hz display on their flagship Pixel 5, so you know, that's another reason to upgrade to the Pixel 5 over going to the Pixel 4a. So yeah, decent display, but that's where we start getting to the decent category. This is where it starts to get complicated, and this is where everything else becomes decent. And so we're going to move on to battery and then performance, and these two are just decent. They're not outstanding, but you know, they're just decent, really. The battery life gets 6 hours, so that's decent. You know, it's better than iPhone SE, but the iPhone SE has terrible battery life in my eyes. Worse than the OnePlus Nord, and around the same as the Realme X2 Pro, which I'd class as decent battery life as well. And about the same as the Pixel 3a. Not that many improvements right there. We do also get 18-watt fast charging, but considering phones from Realme and Xiaomi get 30-watt chargers at like £200 instead of $350, you know, that's not really that impressive either. So a bit of a subpar kind of charging, you know, it's a bit less than I'd probably expect. If I was to go buy a different phone from a different brand, I'd probably expect like 30 watts these days. But 18 watts, you know, it gets you where you need to go, just not that fast. Speaking of not that fast, you get performance, and this may also contribute to the battery life, you know, but worse optimization, stuff like that. And that is a Snapdragon 730G. So yeah, the 730G is just, it's a decent chip, to be honest. It's not that bad, but it has stuttered on me a lot. Like when I go to log in on my Pixel 4a and I put my fingerprint on the fingerprint scanner, I keep tapping it and it doesn't open until like 20 seconds later after I've swiped, put in my passcode. I did everything. The processor isn't amazing. 730G, it gets you where you need to go. Like the games, you can play pretty good games like Asphalt 9, Brawl Stars, you can play them all on the Pixel 4a, so don't worry about that if you're worried about gaming. But games like PUBG, Call of Duty, you know, the heavier ones, probably won't run as well as, say, on a Realme X2 Pro with an 855 Plus, or OnePlus Nord with a 765 chip. And if you want this phone to last you 3 years, which is what Google promises for their software, then you're probably going to want to upgrade to 5G further along that line. But this phone doesn't have 5G, so you're just going to have to upgrade. I'm sorry, but it's just going to have to happen. Unless you want to stay with 4G like me. I'm not going to 5G SIM card, and I honestly don't really care that much. So yeah, 5G didn't just get real on the Pixel 4a. Sorry, I decided to do that. But yeah, 5G didn't just get real. I mean, it's a decent chip. This is what I mean. The rest of the phone is just decent, apart from the camera and software. I'm just going to go and say it's just decent, the rest of the phone. And that's where we get to the final conclusion. And this is where it gets complex. We have decent pretty much everything apart from cameras and software, which are very, very big parts of when you go into buying a phone. Like my mom, I actually told her to go with a OnePlus 8T over a Galaxy S20 FE just because I hated One UI. Sorry mom if you would have preferred One UI, but you wouldn't have because I personally prefer Oxygen OS, but yeah. So yeah, am I impressed with this phone? Yes, but I don't think it's the best value for money phone that everyone's making it out to be. I do like this phone, definitely. You know, I actually quite enjoy using this phone. I've kept it for a while, just because I do think it's a really easy phone to recommend. You know, if you say to someone, you know, you get the best camera on the market, and you get some really good 3 years of software updates, I do think it's a really good and easy phone to recommend to a lot of people. But when it comes to value proposition, I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. So say, let's compare it to OnePlus Nord. I did a video on this entirely, so I'll link that. But spec for spec, the OnePlus Nord absolutely annihilates this thing. It's not even close. And the OnePlus Nord is £30 more. You can probably find deals on it to make it around the same price. And you know, it's just not too amazing when you put it against some of its competition. But the cameras and software, if those are your two main things, then you may want to consider this phone. Although I would consider something like a OnePlus Nord for that software. And sure, you're missing out on the excellent camera, but the camera still gets you by. And you get a 90Hz refresh rate, so it's kind of a trade-off. You kind of got to make those decisions. So yeah, guys, let me know, would you buy the Pixel 4a or would you not? And whether or not you like this review and what I can do to improve. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and it takes like 2 seconds a day. Please help me. I need help. But yeah, we're on the road to 1,000. Hoping to get there by like January or the end of the year, hopefully, if we can. But this has been TechAutoRuz. This is the Pixel 4a, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.